Are you pumped for this session?
Yeah.
Well, my name's Jenny Brinkley. I'm a director in Amazon Security and really happy to welcome you to our session today, which is on engagement through entertainment, how to make security behaviors stick. And I'm thrilled to introduce my co-presenter.
Hi everybody, I'm Lisa Plagemeyer. I'm the Executive Director of the National Cybersecurity Alliance. Thank you for being here, as Jenny said, turning out, first session of the day. We really appreciate it. Disclaimer. So, we're going to start with a little mental exercise this morning, just to make sure you're awake, make sure your coffee is flowing through your brain, and it's not going to be too challenging. You can do it sitting down, sitting right there in your chair, but we're going to start with this little mental exercise to make you think. So, we're going to be showing you pictures of various buildings, and your assignment is to think to yourself, which one of these, were I visiting this city, would I rather go see? So the first one we're looking at is called the Park Royal building in Singapore, part of Singapore's vision to be a city in a garden. I think it's absolutely lovely, might be a good place to live. So that's number one. Would you go see this building? Would you want to see this if you were visiting Singapore? This is number two. This is a gray, lifeless, generic office building, probably one architect's vision for people must go to work. So I know this is tough, so we're going to do what my eye doctor does with me every year. This is number one, and this is number two. One more time, number one, and number two. Next, we have a building in Hamburg, Germany. Hamburg is a large port city where a lot of our, if you're like me, your ancestors left Germany through Hamburg to come to the United States. So this is built to resemble the sail on a ship. It's called the Elfi building in Hamburg, and it's built atop what's made to look like one of the big brick warehouses. If you've been there, because it's a port city, there are these large brick warehouses that surround the waterways there. So lovely interpretation and representation of the history of Hamburg as a port city. So that's our number one, and this is number two. This looks like it might have come from someplace a little further east in Germany. No character. This reminds me of the old Wendy's commercial, Schrimwehr, remember that? Like very dull, gray, boring, it all looks the same, right? Next, we have this lovely little cottage where I could just imagine sitting having a cup of tea, maybe by a stone fireplace. Or number two, I think most of the buildings I've worked in my life look like this one. This could be anywhere in North America, at any company. Absolutely no character, nothing that reflects its place to tell us where it is. So this isn't original content. I'm going to footnote now. We stole this from a TED Talk. So there's a TED Talk out there from a British architect named Thomas Heatherwick, and he sums up the problem like this. I want to talk to you about the problem that we all know exists in our towns and cities. We're increasingly surrounded by characterless buildings. I believe we're living through an epidemic of boringness. So when I saw the TED Talk, and I highly recommend it, it's very entertaining. There's some gorgeous, gorgeous buildings that are on there, really interesting information about architecture. So I highly recommend it. But when I watched it, it reminded me of where we are today in cybersecurity training. I want to talk to you about the problem that we all know exists in our internal cybersecurity training. We're increasingly surrounded by characterless instruction. I believe we're living through an epidemic of boringness. I think what's missing in our training is that we take the perspective of the content that we have to deliver. That's what takes priority. It's the laundry list of behaviors that are listed in all of our policies that we have to train everybody on. It's the regulation, the list of behaviors that are in there, that, what are we trying to comply with? So therefore we must teach people A, B, C, and D. We're very, very focused on the content, but we're forgetting that we're training human beings. And so we're missing a chance to make a human connection with the human on the other side of the screen. Is it engaging? Does it get and hold their attention? Does it make them curious for more? Have you ever had anybody come to you after taking your security training and ask for more? It very rarely happens. Does it inspire any emotion? Or are we living through an epidemic of boringness? So what's the solution? There are many ways to say this. We can talk about being engaging or appealing or having a hook or starting with why. But at their foundation, all these things are about making that human connection, leveraging emotion in some way. So for those of us that are subjected to this boring cybersecurity training, what do? We click through it while we're on a Zoom call. We open it in another tab and then go about our day trying to get some real work done. We go through it as fast as we possibly can, unless the vendor's gotten really tricky and we can't advance any of it until a boring voice has read to us every single word that's on the screen. From a user experience perspective, it's awful. And for those of us who administer this training, I would argue that it's not a good inspiration for behavior change, that it's not actually being effective, that it's not making security behavior stick because it's devoid of emotion. So, a little look at our agenda for today. How do we make security behavior stick? We're going to talk about the importance of emotion. And this isn't specific to cybersecurity training. This is a tenet for all communications. Then we're going to take an honest look at what cybersecurity training looks like today. It's not all bad. We've got some great examples. And finally, we're going to cover 5 actionable steps that you can take home with you today and implement with your team to up your security training game. In short, we're going to talk to you about how to get from being the gray building on the left to being the lovely green building on the right. So, we talked a little bit about emotion already. If I had $1 for every time a frustrated SOC engineer said to me when I was running a training and awareness program, Lisa, you have to make them care. Guess what? We can't make people do anything. You can inspire them. You can spark curiosity, but you can't push a piece of string. You can't force people to feel an emotion and to do anything. What does your teenager say to you when you ask them to do the dishes? Do they say, I don't know how to do the dishes? No, they say, I don't feel like it. We're very, very driven by our emotions. So you might be sitting there thinking, I'm an analytical security professional. This sounds like squishy human stuff, and you're a recovering marketing bozo, so this doesn't really make sense to me. So we have a model, a scientific model that can help you, because there is actually science behind this. This is the behavioral science model known as COM-B. And what this says is that you need to have capability, motivation, and opportunity before you do something. So you can be capable, you can know how to do something, that's just knowledge. You can have the opportunity, the time, and the place. But if you don't have the motivation, if you don't feel like it, then it's probably not going to happen. So for example, I know how to clean my garage. I'm completely capable. I had the opportunity this weekend, but I had zero motivation, and therefore my garage is still dirty, and this is why I still have my COVID-19 pounds. I do get to the gym fairly often, but for some of us, this is the hard part, right? That motivation piece is the hard part. It's very, very emotional. So how do we influence people and use the power of emotion? And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Jenny.
Thanks. Sure, you're just like, why is JFK looking at me? But in all honesty, what do JFK, running, knitting, coffee, and podcasts all represent or have maybe in common? So it's this idea of how you can transform from being boring to exciting, to connecting, to being different and unique and special. So JFK, he transformed from being stodgy to sexy. Debatable in some circles if he is sexy, but for the purpose of this exercise, we'll agree, okay, we'll go with it. Running was considered this very boring, dorky experience in the 20s and 40s until a brand from my home state, that was weird, Portland, Oregon, Nike came out with Just Do It and made it something that you wanted to be a part of and something you wanted to join. I mean, in theory, I have this like idea that I want to be a runner. It's never going to happen. I had a girlfriend once say to me, I will only run if there's a candy bar in front of me or a murder behind me. I have a lot of friends that work at Nike too that sometimes are like, no. Knitting. Knitting was something that was more of a grandmotherly, older, boring, I'm going to die soon, so I should maybe occupy some time and maybe leave some artifacts for my family. Maybe you'll like half away and never use. Now, there are so many people that are out there and knitting and crafting and doing these things that are really transforming the way that this perception has now changed. Think about all the social media that you might see. Think about people that are on planes that are knitting creatures. Does anyone see that show up in their Instagram feeds? I know I see it. Now you'll all see it in your phones later. It's a true story. Let's see what words I can populate into your mobile device. It's great training technique. Coffee. Coffee was just this pedestrian concept of, I gotta get my caffeine, I don't care how I get it. But now, even think about being in San Francisco. How many unique coffee experiences are you seeing as you walk through? I mean, yesterday I probably counted 7 in 3 to 4 blocks. And again, coming from Portland, where we're like a bigger coffee city. And then in terms of podcasts, you know, in the 20s when they started, the 2000s I should say, they were pretty boring and unlistenable until 2014 when we saw Serial come through, the podcast. Anyone listen to that? No? One person? Well, and I know him, he doesn't count. He's trying to be supportive of this talk. So let's talk about cybersecurity training today. I'm sure you've all seen these. Who still sees these within their company today? Stock images, the happy faces of, hey, can I give you this USB stick? I forgot to upload my presentation. Sad. Poor Ken. And a potential claim from Eastern Europe too, just so expected. How about this? Flat, two-dimensional, boring animation that we all see that now everyone can get for free. Julie, don't click on the link in the email that says you've won an island. Click here to claim it instantly. Don't do it. She shouldn't, but she does. And you know, Julie becomes an example and feels really bad. This is probably like one of my all-time favorites. Lisa mentioned this earlier. The sad person in the hoodie, darkened face, every single word is being read as you sit there. Like, am I an idiot? Like, stop. But you have to look and read and wait for this all to be read to you so you can't click through it. And that's where you get the frustration of the teams, for those that administer trainings, and the feedback that you get. It's the annual cybersecurity awareness training. Don't make me take it. I know what to do. So this is where I'm going to hand it off to Lisa, actually. She's going to start talking into why this does no good. And you're quicker.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
So before I had the great fortune of being the executive director of the National Cybersecurity Alliance, I was CMO of a training and awareness company. And we commissioned a study by Osterman Research that told us something painfully obvious. Guess what? Newsflash, people don't like boring stuff. It kind of boggles my mind that we had to pay somebody to do that research so that we could have data that said people don't like boring stuff. So we surveyed 1,000 people in the US, and we also surveyed IT managers and people that purchase training and make decisions about it. Here's one of the interesting stats. Users who find training to be very interesting are 13 times more likely to make fundamental changes in the way they think about cybersecurity. So our research wasn't the only research that's out there. A quick Google will show you other evidence that people don't like boring things. What's interesting to me, though, is that 50% of security leaders say awareness training is one of the most important factors in their program. It's the most visible thing you do. Your entire company sees your training. It's the first impression that new hires get when they have to take training in their first couple of days. But then you contrast that with the fact that almost 3/4 of people say that it isn't engaging, and only a third will admit to paying attention. And I even wonder if maybe that's a little bit high and people felt a little guilty answering that question. So we have this huge disconnect between how important people think this is and how much people actually engage with what's being executed on. So in short, we are more the gray, drab building on the left than we are the interesting building on the right. So Jenny's going to show us some real world examples.
Yeah. Now, some of these might be surprising because they're not like a traditional security exercise, but, well, kind of is. But the idea is taking things that are unexpected. Who flew on United out here? Okay, well, I'm sorry, then you probably, this will look familiar to you.
Welcome. We're excited to have you aboard, and we appreciate your attention as we demonstrate the safety features of this aircraft. FAA regulation requires you to follow the instructions of our crew members and comply with posted and lighted signs.
It's important to have your seatbelt on at all times. To fasten your seatbelt, slide the metal end into the buckle. Tighten by pulling the loose end of the strap. Lift the buckle to release. When the seatbelt sign is on, your seatbelt should be fastened low and tight across your lap. In case of unexpected turbulence, keep your seatbelt fastened, even when the seatbelt sign is off. Please take a moment to look around in order to familiarize yourself with the aircraft. This Boeing 787 has 8 exit doors, 4 on each side of the aircraft. If the doors are opened in an emergency, slide rafts will automatically inflate. In a water landing, slide rafts detach from the aircraft and are used as life rafts. All 8 exits are marked with overhead signs. As you locate the 2 exits nearest your seat, remember, they may be behind you.
So here's what I love about it. And when Lisa and I were culling and looking for examples of training that we enjoy or thought were different and unique, this one stood out because you're sitting on the plane. Also imagine if you're a nervous flyer and it's kind of transporting you and getting you into a different perspective, or maybe it's giving you some perspective about where you're going. Maybe you're going to Scotland. Maybe you're going to a wedding. Maybe you're going to a different event. And it kind of calms you. But it also starts triggering in a different way of the message that we've all heard over and over again. But it gives kind of a different zhuzh, right? Okay, this next example is from New Zealand. I don't know if anyone's seen it. It's a little racy.
Who's seen this one? This is my favorite. Has anybody seen this?
It's a little risque,
Okay.
a little early for this. But this is all about delivering a really important message that parents need to have with their kids about online safety, but they deliver it through humor.
Hiya, I'm Sue. This is Derek. We're here because your son just looked us up online, to watch us.
Matt, darling, there's some people here to see you. So he watches you online?
Yeah, on his laptop.
iPad, PlayStation,
His phone, your phone.
smart TV, projector.
Yeah, anyway, we usually perform for adults, but your son's just a kid. He might not know how relationships actually work. We don't even talk about consent, do we? No, we just get straight to it.
Yeah, and I'd never act like that in real life.
Nah. Hey, Maddie. You right?
Okay, Sandra, stay calm. You know what to do here. All right, Maddie. It sounds like it's time to have a talk about the difference between what you see online and real-life relationships. No judgment.
Many young Kiwis are using porn to learn about sex. Keep it real online. Get help and advice at keepitrealonline.govt.in.
Do we have any Kiwis in the audience? Have you seen this? And how did, when you saw it or when your friends and family saw it, what did you all think? Yeah, it's really, I love it. I mean, It keeps like in staying safe online, but also a relationship message and delivering it through humor and being unexpected, but it's really memorable. Memorable for you? Yeah? Thank you for saying yes. I do not know him. I was really hoping there was going to be someone from New Zealand in the audience. I'm like, who's seen this before? But again, it's this idea of taking a topic that could be so challenging, injecting humor, and giving someone some perspective about how to have a conversation around a topic that might be really hard. Okay, last one. I might have some Canadians on the team that pulled this out. It's in the front row. But before I introduce that, let's watch.
The internet is home to an infinite amount of great content. There are videos of cats, pictures of cats, GIFs of cats, memes with cats in them, you name it. Lots of great stuff lives on the internet. Unfortunately, there are also cyber threats out there that can prevent you from enjoying an endless stream of cat-based content. One of the most common cyber threats is malware, malicious software created to cause damage to your data, device, or network. There are many types of malware that serve lots of different purposes. Ransomware is one of them. Ransomware is pretty much what it sounds like. A type of malware that holds your data, devices, or network for, well, ransom. Ransomware locks your screen or encrypts your files and holds them hostage until you send money, often in an untraceable digital currency like Bitcoin, to the attackers. Unlike some other types of malware, it's very easy to tell if you have ransomware on your system. That's because it proudly announces itself, usually with a pop-up page explaining the terms of the ransom. Sometimes ransomware messages look like they're from law enforcement, saying your device is locked because you've done illegal things online. This scare tactic is a lie to make people panic and react. So, how do you protect yourself?
You want more cat content, right? So the whole theme about this one is this idea of taking a topic that, if you're trying to educate a general population, they'll hear ransomware, they'll hear spyware. You want them to have these little moments of, I want my cat content, how can I get my cat content, but how can I get it safely? And that's what the government of Canada has done really well. Any Canadians, except for the one in the front row that I know of? Okay. Did you see this campaign? No? Oh boy. You did? And what did you think?
Well, first of all, as far as the Canadian government is concerned, they've only started in the past few years, actually started negotiations about cyber awareness.
Okay.
Before we were a little outdated, and it was very, very boring looking at it. More like documents to read, a couple of things to do. So what we found and what I find is that this one is it's captivating. I'm not a cat person.
I'm not either.
But I mean, the idea is that it does go to get, you can aim it to children, you can aim it to any type of people watching it, so it's very effective.
Exactly. And that's like the whole concept of what we wanted to have represented with that training idea is you've got to have things that are relatable, you've got to have things that are actionable, but you also got to remove the fear. So no hoodies, no binary code. We are living in a time where optimism and hope is how we're going to get forward. And in the security industry, as security practitioners, as security educators that might be here as well, frankly, everyone should be a security educator. We've got to be able to meet this moment of removing the fear, getting people to realize personal agency, to take ownership and realize how actionable and easy it is to do. So, last example. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
If I may add,
Yeah.
what we noticed as far as what I've noticed as far as the market in Canada is people they don't pay attention to anything that's scary, right?
Yeah.
We have that for the Canadian outlook, so we don't like things to be scared of something. And when we're scared of something, we actually live in Canada, we don't care, it's not going to happen to us.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, so true.
Sorry, but it's true.
I love it. We're all moving to Canada.
So the scary tactics don't work because,
Yeah.
well, it's not going to happen to us.
I love that message. And it's like, it's also something that I think we all can relate to. I think everybody can agree. We all want to feel safe, right? We all want to feel secure. We all want to be able to really understand, okay, how can I contribute to keep my company, my family, my friends, my business, the things I care about safe and secure. And as you're building trainings or as you're thinking through programs, how can you visually represent that in a way that gives people confidence and ownership of how they operate? Now, obviously we've showed you a couple of things that require really big production budgets. In fact, I have some stuff coming up later. You're gonna be like, cute, I don't have that. But I wanna give you some examples of what you can do inexpensively. Texas A&M, any Aggies in here?
Any Aggies?
No?
No gig 'em?
Okay.
Okay.
Any Longhorns that don't like the Aggies? Yeah? Hook 'em. So what I do love about this example is this was created, whoops, wrong one, hold back. This was actually created by students. And the whole visual representation of this, you kind of get a Monty Python vibe, right? So it's this idea of a circus, this idea of this visual stimulating content that is kind of unexpected. And something that's taken from a cultural zeitgeist and in a moment that gives like this connection where people can kind of go through, kind of get a sense, but it doesn't have people in hoodies. It doesn't have our friend from Eastern Europe with a USB stick trying to be able to get his PowerPoint uploaded because he forgot his laptop. But it's this idea of really practical examples that everybody can relate to in a really visually and compelling way that makes it fun. All right, let's see if I can get us back on track. Okay. This is kind of my jam, and I'm a little excited to talk about this one. And this is actually how I met Lisa. Who's seen this before? It's our Protect Connect campaign out of Amazon and National Cybersecurity Alliance. So this came about, my boss, Steve Schmidt, he's the Chief Security Officer at Amazon, and Andy Jassy, who's our CEO at Amazon, were at the White House. And I bet for those in other companies, I bet your leaders, maybe you were at the White House as well. If you were, I would love to hear about that experience. But in those meetings, they talked about what could companies do to help educate US citizens on how to stay safe. And as we were brainstorming ideas and concepts about what we could do, the biggest thing that I wanted to do, because I've always wanted to do one, is a public service announcement. I've always wanted to think about how could I create like the next Smokey the Bear. Now I didn't get a Smokey the Bear, but I did get a Michael B. Jordan. And sometimes if I feel like I say his name enough, maybe he'll just manifest. I didn't get to go on the shoot, thanks a lot, COVID. But with this spot, we were able to work with Michael B. Jordan and Tessa Thompson, two individuals that care deeply about security, cybersecurity as it relates to their environments and their friends and how to make it be a priority. So, bear with me as we watch this.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, Janice. Just here to protect you from cyber criminals.
Hi, Tessa.
Hey, Jay. Do not give that shady website your password.
Did he get fished? Cyber criminals.
We got this.
Always do. Get the kid.
I got the kid.
Shoes off, please.
Move it. Go to the real site and create a stronger password. No.
Hit him with the multi-factor authentication.
Come on. This is the cinch. We'll take it from here. Frittata? Ooh, throw some guac on. Okay, honey.
Protect yourself before you connect yourself.
Visit protectconnect.com to learn more.
Oh, thanks. I got my PSA and a round of applause. I know it's for Michael B. Jordan and Tessa Thompson, but that's okay. Also, we filmed this on a day, it was like 100 degrees, and this house had no air conditioning, and I felt very bad for the talent. But the whole concept of this was, how could you take a topic that maybe wouldn't be where you think Hollywood A-list actors would show up? The cool thing about working where I work, we have this little company also too called Prime Video, and we partnered with them to be able to create this whole concept and this immersive world. We actually took the content as well, and it was on Amazon.com. I don't know if any of you were shopping during that time, during Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Actually, we started back in August, and it ran for about 3 months. But it was so cool for me, because I get a lot of questions from my friends of, why are you in cybersecurity awareness training work? Like, what are you doing with your life? And then I show them things like this, or if they went to go and restock on paper towels and could see this campaign, it was like such a moment. In any event, because this is really about me and like what I'm doing in my life, so let's validate. In all sincerity, this did take a lot of epic production and investment, but we wanted to show these different examples to kind of give you some different ideas about like where things are trending and where things are moving. But this power of emotion, this power of fun, this power of being able to take things from unexpected places, and how can you transform that into visual language that a lot of different people can understand and get. So I'm going to pass it over back to Lisa.
So at the National Cybersecurity Alliance, we are really excited about something that's coming soon. We call it Cubicle, spelled with K's, not C's. So we had a large corporate donor come to us anonymously and say, we want to do something really edgy and really creative, and we actually don't want to be associated with it at all. We don't want to be involved because we're smart enough to know that we're a big corporation, and if we get involved, it won't be creative anymore. So that was music to my ears. And so we're going to look at a teaser. It's edgy, it's dark, and it is not HR appropriate. Hard to click again.
I know, I understand, but these photographs are, oh!
I siphoned off 25 million Danish kroner from that one retirement account. I just bought a Razor flip phone.
Nobody cares. Volk wants simple scam for simple-minded people.
Have you a few hundred passwords before my cuckoo is done reheating.
You lie and lie until you die.
Spam some fools. That always gives me like a pep in my step.
I cut you from your hooey to your throat. This is dark.
So we shot this, when did we shoot this? January, February? I'm losing track of time. We're in post-production right now. There are something like 8 to 10 episodes. We've just released this teaser today. There's a new website that is cubicleseries.com, and there's a place there to sign up to get into our feed so that when we release all the episodes, you'll be in the know. You can also go to staysafeonline.org and sign up for our newsletter there. We'll be announcing it when we come out with not just the full set of videos, but also related assets. So if you wanted to put these in a company newsletter, say you work at a startup where you don't have HR, or it's okay to pick on the big four, China, Russia, North Korea, and Iran, because we have characters from all those countries. If you can get this by the censors at your company and you want to use this, there'll be newsletter content, all the other still photos, all the other assets you would need as part of a complete communications plan so that you could release these maybe one a week or however you see fit. We have some training and awareness vendors on our board that I think are going to be brave enough to put this in their platform, so you'll see this show up in some of those if you're customers. But I think, yeah, we just decided not to pull any punches, and I was saying to one of my board members when we were filming this, one of our board members volunteered their office space, which was fantastic for us to shoot in, and I said, you know, I really don't want to be the next Sony. And he said, are you kidding me? That would be the best thing that could ever happen to us. That would be the best publicity for a tiny little nonprofit to get hacked by North Korea. So I don't know how I feel about that, but anyway, so more to come there. So we told you we would get to some actionable steps that you can take home today and get started to breathe some life into your training and awareness program. And these don't take the hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars that we've seen in production costs for some of these things today. So first idea is to have a brainstorming session. And I don't mean just the security team. I would actually argue that you only need maybe one person from the security team in this brainstorm. Think about who the trendsetters are in the office. Who are the funniest people? Who are the class clowns? Who are the folks that are kind of tuned into the culture of your organization or help set that culture? And it doesn't have to be the culture that the corporate communications department says is your culture, but the real culture of your organization, because sometimes those things aren't the same. Ask that group, how do we make cybersecurity training interesting? You'll be shocked at the good ideas that come out of people. If you want to make sure it's HR appropriate, invite somebody from the HR department. But try not to invite those people who are more driven by things like compliance maybe than entertaining people. Think about your communications team, your marketing team, people like that. Second recommendation, take inspiration from the things around you, TV, movies, social media. Picasso said, good artists copy and great artists steal. Albert Einstein said, the secret to creativity is knowing how to hide your sources. And a famous playwright once said, if you steal from one author, it's plagiarism. If you steal from many, it's research. Steal ruthlessly. Any artist will tell you that they are copying something that somebody else did and just put their own spin on it, right? So don't be afraid to steal from other sources. What do we call blatant stealing when there's some humor thrown in? A parody, right? So don't be afraid. Some of our organizations, I think, are really easy to parody. So that could be an idea right there. That could be a thought starter. In a day when we all take things so seriously, it can be really refreshing to poke some fun at ourselves and about the topic. And it can be a good mechanism to deliver some security content that's entertaining. Be relatable. So I'm old. How many people remember All in the Family back in the day? So there was a skit. We were talking about trying to give a good example of being relatable. There was a skit between Archie and Meathead where Archie busts into Meathead's room and he's just finishing up getting dressed. He's sitting on his bed to put on his socks and his shoes. And he starts to put on a sock and a shoe, and then the other sock and a shoe. And what does Archie say? What are you doing? Everybody knows you put on a sock and then a shoe and a shoe. And the whole skit, it was really funny, the whole skit was just based on this very relatable concept that, yeah, we do put on a sock and then a shoe and a shoe. So what are those things at your company that are super, super relatable? That little bit of inside baseball that everybody can relate to you in your organization, and can you somehow build on that? There was also recently a United ad I saw, I think it was a digital ad in an email, that was poking fun, without naming them, poking fun at Southwest Airlines. The copy said something about setting a reminder in your calendar 24 hours before your flight. Because what do we do when we don't have status on Southwest? We set a timer in our calendar to remind us to check in so we don't end up being in the C category, right? So we get a decent number to board, right? So they were picking on this fact that everybody that flies Southwest knows they have to do that. And guess what? At United, you get your seat assignment. You don't have to worry about it. So something just really, really relatable like that. Don't try to be obscure or overly clever. Try to find those common threads that you can pull on, things everybody can relate to. Start small. You don't need a huge budget to do this. As a former marketing advertising person, I can tell you there are a whole bunch of creatives on the job market right now. The advertising industry has seen a lot of layoffs, and a lot of these people are freelancing. You can go to sites like Fiverr or Upwork. There's a whole gig economy out there of graphic designers and writers. They don't need to know about cybersecurity. They only need to know enough to deliver the message in a way that relates to people and leverages emotion and makes that human connection. Next, and this is going to especially apply with our cubicle series, somebody's gonna complain. You're always gonna have one person in every organization that doesn't like what you're doing, especially if you do something different. So my first job out of college was working for a Ford Motor Company at a time when the Taurus was still a relatively new vehicle. I don't know how many of you remember in the 70s when we were all driving around in very boxy looking things. When they so Ford was in a do or die situation. There was a lot riding on that vehicle launch. When they test marketed the Taurus to focus groups, people didn't like it because it was too revolutionary, right? It looked more like a jelly bean than a big box. If you're doing something really different and really creative, not everybody is going to like it. And that's oftentimes a hint that you might actually get people's attention and you might be successful. So if you're doing something that's kind of edgy with your security training and you have one person who doesn't like it, don't scrap the whole program. I have heard this happen over and over again. Somebody purchases some entertaining cybersecurity videos or training modules, and the whole company loves them. You get great feedback, and then one person says, oh, I'm offended by this one little thing over here, and then they end up shutting down the entire program. So I've been through this before. When I ran a training awareness program, I did edgy stuff. We met with HR, we met with all the executives in advance because we knew there might be somebody who finds something in this humor offensive. And we made sure that we loaded the lips of the executives and we loaded the lips of HR, and everybody understood that this is comedy, don't take this too seriously. If you don't like it, you can go have the boring training back if you want it. But just know that in this day and age, when you do humor, a lot of humor relies on stereotype, like our Cubicle series, a lot of stereotypes in there, but that's what makes it relatable and that's what makes it funny. So you've just got to kind of have a talk track ready because there are a lot of sad Eeyores who just want to feel bad a lot. So be ready for that, because if you're doing something different, that just might be the case. And that brings us to the close, and we have time for Q&A. Or if anybody has a story to share about training their organization, we'd love to hear it.
And also, if this was impactful and interesting, I think like the biggest thing is when oh, there's a microphone up front. I thought you were going to ask me to take a microphone. That's never a good thing. I think I'm Mariah Carey. I'm not. I can't sing. But you know, the biggest things that we want you to take away with, and if you're not responsible for trainings within your own business, have conversations with the teams that are, getting people bought into the vision, the way things can evolve and change. We've got to be like, the change starts with you. But it really does. When I first joined at Amazon, actually a couple years into it, I saw one of our first security trainings, and it was our executives standing in front of a cruise ship. Don't really know what it was, but it became a lot of memes that we used for a few years. So then we changed it. In any event, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much, everybody, and enjoy your week at RSA.